Since 2017, the SaaS industry has grown by over 500%. And the whole global SaaS market is expected to hit about $10 trillion by 2030. More specifically for Siemens, being able to reduce costs for our customers and give them greater flexibility, they're more scalable, things like that. Network infrastructure has now reached a point where cloud is a sustainable solution. Now the internet is fast enough. There's fast enough connectivity to different places all over the world with things like satellite internet and fiber and things like that make it a viable solution in more places than it's ever been before.
You're listening to another episode of the Next Generation Design Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Arnott. On today's episode, I'm joined by Tom Spangler, Product Marketing Manager for Siemens Digital Industries Software, NX Go-to-Market Team. Before we begin, let's meet today's guest. Welcome to the podcast, Tom. Can you tell our listeners a bit about yourself and your role at Siemens as part of the NX Product Marketing Team?
I've been with the company for a little over 15 years in various kind of marketing roles and with a lot of responsibilities over the years for product launches, industry campaigns, and various other things. Before that, I worked as a designer in the automotive industry, both at the OEM and the supplier level. I also worked in data management. We did some outsourcing, so I kind of did a little bit of everything. Used a lot of different CAD applications. When I was in college, I worked for a civil engineering firm doing design layout work for things like subdivisions, sewer systems, and things like that. So a lot of wide variety of experience in the CAD industry in various industries, various applications, various types of work in that area.
That's quite an impressive resume. Now, I'd like to jump straight into today's topic. Can you help our listeners better understand what SaaS is?
So SaaS is, of course, software as a service. It's also known as the cloud. Now, one thing that IT people like to say is there is no cloud, it's just someone else's computer, which is true in a sense. Basically, it's cloud is you're running an application remotely, like a streaming application is run remotely, and you stream that to your device. With cloud licensing, like what we do with NXX, you're still installing the application on your own computer, but your licensing is done remotely. So if you think of like Microsoft 365, where you fire up Excel or Word or something like that, and you have your little picture up in the corner, and it always knows where you are, no matter what computer you're on or what application you're running. All that licensing is handled in the cloud.
I'm hearing a lot of terms being bandied about. Can you help me understand the difference between cloud streaming and cloud licensing?
So with cloud streaming, as I mentioned, it's basically running on someone else's computer. The application itself is being run on a server through Amazon or Microsoft or Google or someone like that, and it's being streamed to your computer through a web browser. So you're not actually running the application on your computer; it's being run on a remote server somewhere and being streamed to you. With cloud licensing, like I said, you're still running the application on your own computer, and but just with the licensing and the provisioning and the user logins and all those things handled through the cloud.
And what are the benefits of transitioning to the cloud?
For a lot of the customers, it can be more cost effective because you can do it with reduced upfront costs. You have lower IT expenses. And with a lot of cloud applications, it's more pay as you go rather than making a larger lump sum payment. So that can be easier for customers to deal with. It also has better accessibility because you can access your license or your software from wherever you are. It's easier to scale it, and we'll go into a little bit more detail on that when we talk more about NXX. It's also easier to deploy, and you get automatic updates. So no matter what version, wherever you're using the software, you're always on the latest version.
And what about security? Sometimes there's a perception that the cloud is less secure than local data storage.
That's not really true anymore. There's some really excellent procedures in place now. Cloud companies recognize the importance of security, and they really put a lot of effort into making sure their data is secure. And when it is in a secure central location, it can be accessed from anywhere. And that's becoming more and more important too, as we see more remote work and things like that.
What challenges are companies facing that prompt them to transition to the cloud? How is SaaS helping them address those challenges?
One of the things we're seeing is infrastructure costs are going up. Hardware costs, especially during the pandemic when we had chip shortages, there was a pretty significant uptick in the costs of things like computer hardware and things like that. So with cloud, you don't need as many servers, and you don't need as much of that infrastructure locally. And I mentioned data security a minute ago. That's become more and more of a concern as we've seen some of these large data breaches that have been affecting companies around the world. Licensing can be pretty complex for some software, and when you have a cloud SaaS application, that can be greatly simplified on the customer end. And then, of course, the more need for collaboration, not only with remote work and things like that, but what we're seeing in a lot of industries is companies are having to collaborate more globally than before. We're seeing a lot more situations where engineering is done in one location, but manufacturing is spread all over the world. So you need a lot of fast communication and collaboration between those groups in order to be able to successfully design these new products.
And why does Siemens offer SaaS products?
The whole software industry is moving this way. SaaS has seen, since 2017, the SaaS industry has grown by over 500%. And the whole global SaaS market is expected to hit about $10 trillion by 2030. So there's a larger trend at work here. But more specifically for Siemens, it's a lot of the things I just talked about a minute ago with being able to reduce costs for our customers and give them greater flexibility. They're more scalable, things like that. And then, of course, another reason that we're seeing for our customers to be interested in this is that network infrastructure has now reached a point where cloud is a sustainable solution. Now the internet is fast enough. There's fast enough connectivity to different places all over the world with things like satellite internet and fiber and things like that make it a viable solution in more places than it's ever been before.
Can you walk our listeners through the SaaS products that are currently available?
So, of course, we have NXX. We have our PLM solution, Teamcenter X. We have Zelix, which is a browser-based, kind of a lightweight CAD, CAM, and CAE solution that can do, some basic things like that, as a browser-based streaming option. And then we have a few coming soon: Capital X, electrical design software; Solid Edge X, which is our mainstream CAD application; and NX CAM and SimCenter, I think, are coming very soon.
And while we're there, I'd also like to give a shout out for PCB Exchange Connect, a browser-based app that works with NX in the electronic space. Let's talk a bit more about NXX. Tell me, how similar is NXX to traditional desktop on-prem NX?
In most ways, it's very similar. It's the same data model, it's the same user interface, it's the same functionality. So you can use NXX and NX with no translation. They work the same, they look the same, they feel the same. Just like NX, you can work across NX CAM and SimCenter and Zelix and all these different applications using that same data model with no need to translate. It also comes in the same bundles as a desktop NX. So there's NX Design Standard, Design Advanced, and Design Premium. We also offer value-based licensing on both NX and NXX, where you get one subscription and a set of tokens, and there's over 100 items in that token pool that you can use as needed to give you that flexibility. It installs on your desktop like Microsoft 365. You use Siemens Software Center to install NXX on your desktop, and all of your licensing and all the user provisioning is handled in the cloud. So it's a lot simpler than it has been in the past.
And what about the differences?
As I said, all that licensing is handled in the cloud. So it's a huge reduction in IT overhead. It used to be IT people would have to do a fair amount of work in order to get everything provisioned correctly for all the different machines and set up all the licensing. Now that's all handled by Siemens. it's named user. Now, this is really a key thing. So as you fire up your NX session, you are logging into your Siemens account to access NX. And that has some pretty significant benefits. It really gives you a better, more personalized user experience. And the other thing it does is it enables you to use a lot of our AI-based features, of which we have quite a few right now and more on the way. As we go forward, there are going to be a lot of new innovative things that are only going to be available on NXX. The other thing it does, going back to things like remote work, is it enables you to synchronize your settings across multiple machines. So if you are working in an office one day and a factory the next day, or whatever, you log into NXX wherever location you're in, and it is still your login. It's going to be your user defaults, your data, and everything is going to be the same as it was in the other location. It also comes with built-in data management. So that's a difference as well. Now, the first thing I want to say about the built-in data management is it is optional. And you don't have to use it, but we think that most people are going to choose to do it. It gives you cloud-enabled data management with some kind of basic functionality like check-in and check-out. You get version control. There's some visualization. You can look at where an item is used, things like that. Now, on the topic of data management, you can also use Teamcenter X, which I mentioned earlier, is one of our other X products, or it can be used on-premises Teamcenter as well. And NXX, you also get Teamcenter Share, which helps you do ad hoc collaboration with external collaborators, suppliers, partners, whatever.
So, with all that being said about the similarities and differences, what are some reasons that a customer might want to move from on-prem NX to NXX?
Well, the first reason we think that a customer would want to do it is that they get immediate access to new functionality as soon as it comes out. We have for instance, some new cool stuff coming in Immersive later this year. You also get immediate updates, any kind of fixes, anything that comes out. You are always up to date, always on the absolute latest software. And again, the simplified installation, we can't emphasize this enough. It really is. It takes a lot of burden off of the customer and reduces their IT costs quite a bit. That personalized user experience. So you log into NXX on whatever machine you're on, and you get your user interface, your roles, your defaults, everything are going to be exactly the way you have it set up on any other machine. So you get that same familiar NX experience that you're used to on the other machine. That enables you to get up and get going right away without having to move things around or fix things or do anything like that. And with the personalized user experience, you get access to some of the some new AI features that we have around our user interface. The customizable user interface, the adaptable user interface that learns as you use the software and makes things easier for you using AI to predict what commands you're going to use next and things like that. All that is possible because of that named user experience. And of course, value-based licensing, which is something we offer on both desktop and NXX, but it is really a massive advantage for that flexibility and scalability. And the way it works is you purchase a bundle of tokens from Siemens, and we have various applications, things like advanced sheet metal and routing, things like that are all accessible through those tokens. So if it's an application that you don't need all that often within NX, but when you do need it, you can spend some of those tokens, use it for the day, and then put the tokens back. And then the next day, if you need a different application, you can use tokens on that. So it's really a good way to access the full functionality of the whole NX suite without having to invest in a more expensive bundle. It's really a great solution for our customers, especially for some of maybe the smaller medium business customers that don't necessarily have a need for all those things all the time like an enterprise customer might.
I've been hearing quite a bit coming up about those different options. Can you expand on some of the features included in NXX in the standard, advanced, and premium options?
So the standard NXX bundle it's called NX Design Standard, NXX Design Standard, and it gives you things like solid modeling, synchronous modeling, which allows you to work with data from any source and move it around, add intelligence to it. Convergent modeling enables you to use facet data as if you would use any other data. Things like drafting and assemblies, basic sheet metal, HD3D, which is our kind of built-in reporting tool. Now, NX Design Advanced adds Checkmate, which is a little bit more robust reporting added onto HD3D. You get routing, you get more rendering capabilities, so you can make photorealistic images of your designs. You get PMI, product manufacturing information, so you can actually do your manufacturing information right on your 3D model and create it there, use it down the road for things like inspection, manufacturing, quality checks, things like that. And you also get user-defined features. And then finally, in NXX Design Premium, you get things like advanced assemblies. You can do surface analysis, freeform modeling. And this is where more of that AI selection prediction and select similar components, some of those features reside in the premium bundle.
Now, if I'm an NXX user who's just purchased my new software, how long does an installation process take? I mean, how many clicks would it take to fully deploy NXX with built-in data management?
So keeping in mind that you do need to install Siemens Software Center, which is a fairly easy thing to do. But for the end user, it's only about 5 clicks to install NXX, which is quite an improvement over previous installations for any software as complex as NX.
And how can people go about buying NXX?
So we offer it through all of our current sales channels, so you can purchase it directly from Siemens and from our channel partners. We also offer it on the Siemens Digital Exchange. That's our online store. So that's really an easy way to do it. If you go to the exchange, and you can see all the different options, and you can also buy value-based licensing tokens on the exchange as well. So all the same ways that you have been able to buy NX in the past and on the store.
Looking beyond Siemens a little bit, can you tell us about some of the companies that are actually already using NXX? And is there any feedback from them that you'd be able to share with us?
Yeah, we have quite a few customers. We've only been on the market for about 6 months, but we've seen quite strong growth in that short time. So a couple of the companies that we've talked about are Dovetail Aviation. So this is a company based out of Australia that's developing electrified aircraft to reduce carbon emissions. So they were using one of our larger competitors, and they reviewed their offerings. They looked at what we had, and they decided to make the switch, mostly because of that scalability and flexibility that I mentioned earlier. And obviously, the capabilities are there as well. NX is still, world-class design software, enterprise grade, can handle any kind of an engineering challenge, but also gives you that flexibility with things like value-based licensing and scalability with the different bundles, and the ability to kind of grow with a company that's just starting out, and as they grow and become larger and maybe become an enterprise themselves, NX can be there the entire time and support their engineering needs the entire time. We also there's a company called Helix, which is a mobility company based in the UK, and they're focused on affordable zero emissions vehicles, and they are one of the challenges they're dealing with is what I mentioned earlier, which is global design with local manufacturing. So they're doing all their design in one place, but their manufacturing is spread around the world. So collaboration was a major challenge for them. And we have a quote from their CEO and co-founder, who said that having access to cutting-edge product engineering software and the associated digital twins wherever and whenever we need it is fundamental to achieving our vision. So I think that's really a great endorsement of that kind of collaboration that we see with NXX. That's really it's enabled by that built-in data management and that scalability with the value-based licensing and the bundles. There are a couple of others that I can't name, but we have a truck manufacturer based in Asia that made the change from one of our competitors because that competitor was not able to grow with them like they can with NX. They were using a cloud-based solution that didn't scale to the next level. We also have some customers in Korea and the United States that were brought to us by our channel partners. So we're really seeing a lot of success with NXX so far in this short time it's been on the market.
Should our listeners and existing and prospective customers expect Siemens to ever only offer SaaS products? And what about companies in that case who prefer to keep things in-house?
I will give a disclaimer that it is hard to predict the future. But I can say right now, no, we do not plan on offering only SaaS in the future. Siemens has been committed and remains committed to an open philosophy. We believe in giving our customers the choice to use the deployment method that works best for them. We believe that our customers can make the best decisions about their business processes, and we don't want to force them into any model. But we do think that more and more of them are going to choose our SaaS solutions as we go forward because of all those advantages that we've been talking about. The things like the scalability, the built-in data management, the personalized experience, some of those things that are really going to become very compelling as time goes on. As far as the competition, I can't really speak to their strategy. I do know some of them have a tendency to force their customers into one deployment model or a closed system where the customer can only use all of their applications in their suite. And we don't believe in that. Again, we believe that the customer knows best and can make the best decisions about their business.
While we have you here, can you tell us anything more about the future and the evolution of NXX going forward?
Just to kind of reiterate that it is built on NX. So you get all the advantages of this world-class engineering software. It's powerful enough for enterprise. You get strong integration with the rest of the Siemens Accelerator portfolio. NX is award-winning. It was been awarded Best Software awards from G2 and TrustRadius. It's also really good for sustainability. It was the 2023 Sustainable Product of the Year. We have best-in-class quality. We have best-in-class workflow productivity, and we're ahead of the curve of everyone else in upgrade deployment as well. We continue to innovate. A lot of people think that CAD is kind of a static technology, that it's mature and there's not a lot of room to improve. We don't see it that way. We actually have had 60 patents in fiscal year 2023 for innovations in CAD. Another thing we pride ourselves on is backward compatibility. You can take a 30-year-old part that was designed back when NX was called Unigraphics, and you can open it in the current version of NX, and it'll open right up, and it'll have a full history tree, and you can modify it and do everything. And that's part of our philosophy of we never let a customer fail. We always make sure that whatever the customer needs, we are there to maintain and keep it up. So as far as the future of NXX, it's built on that foundation, and we're going to keep innovating. And as I said, we're going to be pursuing more and more of the things that named user enables, so things like personalization, AI features, and more of these cloud features that are like the new immersive capabilities are going to be coming as well. So we really are pushing, improving constantly, trying to make everything better with NX and NXX.
And before we go, where can people go to learn more about NXX?
Well, I would encourage them to search for us on the web, Siemens Digital Industry Software, Siemens NX. Look for our hashtags. One of our most popular ones is NX Makes It Real. So if you search for that on any of your socials, you'll find some really good examples of the things our customers are doing with NX and NXX. Some of the really innovative and cool products that are out there being designed with our stuff. If you again go to Siemens DISW, search for our digital exchange, you can find our store, and you can find a lot of great demos. We have a blog where we give constant updates about what's new and what's coming. We have tips and tricks that that we publish very often for how to use some of the newer features in NX and things like that. So there's really a lot out there for our customers to learn as much as they want. And of course, I would encourage them to contact us, and we'd be glad to help them out.
Thank you for that, Tom. Definitely something for our attentive listeners to keep in mind. And I'd like to thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and hearing you expand on Siemens' offerings in the NX sphere. Thank you once more to Tom. We hope to speak with you again soon. Thanks also to our listeners for tuning into today's episode. Join us next time for more discussions about the latest in design innovation and software applications. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform. And if you're enjoying the content, please leave us a review. I'm your host, Greg Arnott, and this has been the Next Generation Design Podcast.